In this video, I want to talk a little bit about the required software that you're going to need in order to work through all of the lessons and exercises for this camp. The primary animation software that we're going to be working in is known as Krita. You can download this completely free from their website. It's open source, which means it's available in multiple platforms and it's also constantly in development. If you go to Krita, Krita.org, it should load up really nicely for you, and you can see there's a bunch of links, and the main link that you can click on is the download link. Now from here, it's going to choose the most current installer, and I do recommend using whatever most current version that they do have. The version that I'm going to be using is going to be 5.2.9. That's just at the time of this recording. But everything that we're going to be doing, even if you've got a newer or maybe even a slightly older version, should still work. If there's some small differences, I'll try to point those out. Now, when you do download it, make sure, of course, to download the appropriate one, whether you have a Windows or Mac computer. All the lessons that I'm doing are going to be on my personal Macintosh Apple computer. So I'm going to be clicking on the Mac OS installer. Your installer for your computer may be slightly different, but the process should be about the same regardless what you have. You'll be able to download a packaged file. Simply double click on the file and go through whatever steps are necessary to install it on your computer. Now, once everything is installed, do be aware that you may have to give some sort of security permissions in order for the software to save things to your files or to be able to import images or maybe even to interact with your computer somehow. Knowing how and where to find these security settings is important. For instance, if you're on a Mac computer, you can always go to your system settings. And I've found most of the things I need are found under the privacy and security. If you're on a Windows computer, it'll be in a similar looking place. For Mac specifically, there's accessibility, and you can see how Krita needs to be able to have access to control my computer, and that's what I'm giving it access to do. Other things like being able to save files and find files are also one thing I have to be able to give it access to do as well. If for whatever reason you can't access Krita, you're not going to be able to easily follow along with us. So try to find a computer that does run it and run it really well. Now, some other things to note about using Krita, especially if you want to be able to do more than just animation. You can have a look at the features of it, and this, like I said, it's completely open sourced and free. At no time do you have to pay for anything to be able to use it. Do be aware that it does require a relatively good computer to have enough memory to save things, have enough RAM to be able to run on it. And so have a look at your computer's specs to make sure that you've got the ability to run the computer on it as well. Some other things that you can do with it. Krita's got a great online community. And if you go to their Learn section, they've got a complete manual that shows how to do a variety of different things, including some resources to download, including being able to work just with animation. Now, Krita was primarily created as a drawing and digital painting type software. Animation has been added to it within the last couple of years. And it's very, very good, very intuitive drawing software. I would argue it's quite on the professional level. The reason I like it is because it is intuitive. It has a low learning curve. It doesn't take you long to figure out exactly how to do some things. Now, I'm not going to focus on the drawing aspect of doing Krita. Instead, I'm going to be focusing on the animation aspect of it. We're going to keep the drawings very simple. We're going to keep it the kind of things that you don't have to worry about the right brushes and the right tools and setups. We want to worry about making some cool, simple animations. These animations are going to be two-dimensional, so it's not a three-dimensional software. These animations are frame by frame. Even though it can do some simple, a little more advanced things, we're going to focus on doing drawings over and over again. Now, when working with the drawing software, everything that we're going to be able to do, you should be able to use either a trackpad if you've got a laptop, or be able to use a mouse if you've got the ability to connect to it. However, if you're more adventurous and if you're the type of person that wants to do this a lot, you may want to invest in getting a digital drawing tablet. This is not required for any of these tutorials, but I do want to make you aware that from time to time, if you've got a digital drawing tablet, it makes the process go a little bit easier. Now, I specifically use a brand known as Wacom tablets. Wacom works very well with a lot of the Adobe software and the Apple software, and it certainly works with Krita as well. One of their more introductory level drawing tablets is known as the Wacom One. There is one that you can draw and see a screen. I got this version. All it is the basic pen and the basic writing tablet to be able to work on. This particular one costs about $30 to $50. You can get them at Best Buy, you can order them online, and they absolutely work really, really well right out of the box. Some other brands that my students have worked with, if you go to Amazon, you can find lots of other great versions that tend to work. Huion is another brand that I have used. I love Huion because for the price of it, you can get a slightly bigger drawing tablet. Another one is Xpen. Xpen is also a really good tablet that works well right out of the box as well. Just with any other software or any other device, once you get it and you download it, you may have to have some drivers or some software to be able to get it to interact with your computer. So whichever you use, that'll be up to you. But again, these are not required to learn the Krita software, and they're not going to be required to do any of the exercises. They're just available and something that you can have to make things go a little bit smoother, a little bit easier. Makes for a great Christmas present is what I would tell people. Now, a final note about installing the software and working with Krita for animation. Whenever you save your files, we're going to be able to save the native Krita file. That's going to get all of your layers, your frames, your drawings, everything that you do. But once we're ready to actually create the animation and render it and make it in a format that you could upload to YouTube or put on Facebook or Instagram and share to anybody, even if they don't have Krita, you need to be able to render that software. Now, because Krita is open source, they also use an open source rendering sub-software in order to make things run a little bit easier. Whenever you download it, it should come with this extra bit of code and this extra bit of software. But if it doesn't, especially if you've got an older version of Krita, you may have to go and download what is known as MPEG. This, you can Google it, you can search for it, or you can go to ffmpeg.org and be able to download the correct version for your computer system and be able to use it as well. Once we jump into the projects and start to render these final things, I'll show you how this works. But you shouldn't have to do it if you've got the latest version of Krita. It comes with it. Otherwise, just be aware that this is a requirement when we start to actually save and create the final animations that we've got. All right, so let's jump in and have a look at some of the software and some things that you can do with it. I've already got Krita installed on my machine, so I'm going to fire it up and be greeted with it. The first thing that you're going to be greeted with is simply your welcome screen to start a new project. Be aware that at the top you've got your drop-down menus, and remember, if you're on a Windows computer, it's going to look slightly different, but everything should still be there, even if you're on a Mac or a Windows computer. Now, if you want to open an existing thing, you've got the open file, or if you want to just make a new image, you can click on new or go to file and choose new from up here. This is arguably the most important thing that we need to be able to set up when working in our animations. To keep things simple, I'm going to have all of my document sizes be nice and consistent. But just be aware, when you create a custom document, You can set up the size of it, and there are some predefined common sizes, things like US letter, which is 8.5 by 11, or some European or even Japanese standards. Be aware of what unit of measure you're working in. So if you're working on something for YouTube or to be seen online, those are measured in pixels. If you're working for something to be printed, you can work in inches. Resolution determines the number of pixels per inch, and the higher the number, the higher the quality you have. Being able to work in a certain color mode is also very important. If you remember one thing, we're not going to worry about the color mode for these. I always work in RGB color mode. That way the colors you see on the screen are the colors you're going to get regardless where you're at. Now, one thing I do want to point out, there are some predefined templates that you can play around with. Krita is great at doing drawing, at doing some photo editing, some basic little texture creating. You can even see there's some animation templates that are set up for these. I'm not going to use these animation templates. If you do choose them, let me show you what they're giving to you. These are meant to be set up in a way that if you're doing a professional animation, being able to have your layers set up for you, it's even got the ability to print this off so that you can have everything in the correct placement. These little tabs up here lets everything be aligned. This is a bit more than what we want to get into for this introductory type camp. So for this reason, I'm not going to be using any of the animation templates. We're going to start off with a blank basic canvas. Later on, however, once you get comfortable working in all of the layers and get an idea of what's going on over here, then you can jump in and be able to use those. By the way, I'm going to go up to File, and I'm simply going to close out this document. If it asks me to save, I'm not going to save it. Let's go back up, and I'm going to make a new document, a new custom document. And this is a standard size for YouTube, so I'm just going to create a new one and give you a look around at setting up your document. So right off the bat, there's a couple of zones to be able to understand where to find things. First off, notice that you've got an area for your toolbox, and your toolbox has all of the different tools that are necessary to create your drawing. Whenever you hover over these tools, you can get the name of them, and if it's in parentheses, that's your keyboard shortcut to be able to quickly find those tools. Whenever you select a tool, pay attention to the tool options. This gives you the ability to customize that tool. So for instance, I have the paintbrush selected right now. I can do things like change the color of it, the mode I'm working in, the size and the opacity of it, and that's all in these tool options. There's also a variety of different panels that you'll have open that let you fully customize your drawing experience. So for instance, I have my paintbrush or my brush tool selected. Over at the very bottom, I've got some predefined brushes that gives me the ability to draw like different media. So if I wanted an eraser, if I wanted more of a pencil or a marker or a paintbrush, I can choose these to be able to work with them. Other panels are used more often than others. So for instance, working in layers is going to be very important, and being able to choose and select my colors or even customize the options for the tools. Now, if you ever need to find something on here to be able to customize it or change it around, in Krita, all of these different panels are known as dockers. You can go to your settings drop-down menu and choose dockers, and all the ones that Krita has available are set inside of here. If there's a check by it, that means it's opened, or if there's not a check, you can click on it like histogram, and you can see how, and there it is at the bottom, it'll open up that little docker down there. The best part about this workspace is that it's fully customizable. You can drag things off and move them around. Let's see if I can get one of them to come off for me. There we go. You can click on this one and it'll undock from it. And you can change the size of it, or you can click on the name and place it right where you want, or I can move it and place it right there too. So you can move things around and close them out. If it's something that you don't want, like let's close out that histogram, click on the little X, and it goes away. Now, if there's some things that you want to be able to work on, for instance, I want to see everything that's important for animation, not just drawing, but I want to see my timeline and stuff too. Let's go up to Window, down to our workspace, and I want you to select the Animation Workspace. Right off the bat, you can see how it moves things around. It closed out some panels and opened them up over here. And at the very bottom, this is our timeline that we're going to be working on in order to create frame-by-frame drawings. In addition to this, there's the onion skinning that lets us see what's before and behind our drawings. We've still got our layers, and we've still got our tool options and our palette of colors up at the top. Check out where our tools are. Our tools are now all up at the very top of our screen. What this does is it maximizes the amount of space that I have to work while getting all of my tools out of the way. Now, if you've got a bigger screen, you may have more room for things and be able to add more stuff to it. If you've got a smaller screen computer, you may want to be able to move some things around and do some other stuff. Let's say I wanted to be able to see my paintbrush or my brushes, my brush tools that I have. I'm going to go up to my settings, down to my dockers. I want to see my brush presets, so I've got those open, and here they are over here. Again, I've got my workspace here in the middle, so I can click and drag and draw, and then if I wanted to change it over to a different one, I've quickly got it selected over here. The first thing you need to do once you've got Krita installed and everything's up and working is go ahead and open it up and have a look around at where things are at. Open up your drop-down menus, open up your files, be able to locate your tools, but specifically have a look at your window, workspace, and go ahead and set it to animation. This way, we're all going to be working in the same work environment so that you can quickly and easily start creating and drawing. The final thing I'll point out is that once we're finished, we need to be able to save our work. I'm going to go up to File, and let's do a save since this is the first time I've done it. Now, the thing to note is we want to make sure you know where you're saving your stuff to. In my case, I want to save everything to my desktop. I'm going to make a folder dedicated to all of my work. So this is my Krita, let's just call it Animation Camp work. We'll say create. There it is there. You can always give it a name. I'm just going to call this my test document. The file format, you can see there's different kinds of files you can save things to. The .kra, that's the one that we always want to save everything to. For whatever reason, it's also giving me some Hebrew lettering after that. I don't know what that's about, but that's just part of whatever I installed for mine. I've got the Animation Camp folder selected, and when I hit save, it should be saved nicely on my desktop now. Here's my folder. Here's my Krita document. There's .kra ready to go. Hey, now that I've got everything saved, we can go to File and I can close everything out. Now, closing a document doesn't necessarily quit Krita. It just closes the document that I have. But you can see it remembers the recent image or the recent document that I had already saved. So next time I come on, I should be able to open it up. From here, especially if you're on a Mac computer, you can also quit out of Krita, and there it goes. Check this out. Notice that I now have two documents. There's a test document Krita, and there's a test document Krita with a little tilde at the end of it. What that's doing is that's an automatic backup file. One thing about Krita to note is that it sometimes can be unstable, especially if you don't have enough memory. And so it's prone to crash just like every other computer or every other software that you're working on. My plea to you is that you get into a habit of saving your documents, saving them often and saving them early. The more you save, the better opportunity that you have to not lose your work. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back and rework on things. So get into a habit of saving. This extra document, that's a backup document. In case Krita closes on me, it'll automatically pull from that one as well. But just know that that's why there's two different versions. All right, so that's the basic introduction for the software that we're going to be using. Just make sure you've got it installed, ready to go for this first day so that we can jump in and start learning how to use the software.